of the Maxims in Paris. You know, they were very tough men, but very nice men. And I remember when I left school in 1986 in Nice, he sent me to America in Paris. You know, they were very tough men, but very nice men. And I remember when I left school in 1986 in Nice, he sent me to America in Paris. You know, they were very tough men. You know, I was sent to Minnesota to work for Sofitel, and it was a great experience. That was one person I can mention. Another one was Mr. Balanche. He was the maître d'hôtel La Réserve de Beaulieu in Beaulieu-sur-Mer, beautiful 5-star property in France. That taught me one thing that I actually was talking to a student not last week. You know, they tell me, Mr. Philippe, you know, it's a very depressing time that we have now. The COVID-19, people are losing their job. But when I send a CV, I have sent 1,000 CV, the student told me, and nobody replied to me. And I found that, you know, bring tears to my eyes, because we are professional, you know, a lot of people in the industry are professional, and I know they do their job, you know. Even me, I receive a CV. I tell you frankly, and I'm not lying to you, I'm very honest. I receive one CV, I receive 100 CV. I will reply to every one of them. And I make it really a way of life to do this, you know, as a respect for the people who have spent time to read it. You know, I have sent CV myself looking for a job when I was younger. And sometimes you receive answers like, we will only reply to the selected CV. We are not able to reply to you because we received too many. I find that so shameful, you know, as people call themselves professional, but this is what the time we live in now. And there is a lot of non-professional people around. And I think COVID-19 is bringing a lot of these things out. You know, in a way, there is always bad news and good news. So this is something important to me, you know, Mr. Balanche, I mentioned to you just now. But I will say that the two people that have really put me the direction for me in my career, you know, I will mention these two persons.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. I mean, what I got from what you said is that, you know, being able to lead people, but at the same time, it's not really always the good thing. Tough. It's like giving them tough love, right? From your first leader.
Absolutely.
And the second one is more on respecting others and being able to, you know, respond and to, you know, care for most people, I would say, because you've mentioned that, you know, you would do all your best to be able to respond to them, no matter how much people actually send in CV to you, right? So having said that, inspiration and influence you had from those two leaders that you've had the pleasure of working with, what is leadership for you?
You know, it's a tough question, this one. It's really a tough question. Everybody think they have the answer. You know, for me, I will answer humbly again. You know, I have worked all over the world in so many countries, so many different projects, as you mentioned. You know, I opened a cruise ship, I have opened 5-star hotel, I have opened the Orient Express in Singapore in 1993. I have always been offered fantastic job in exotic location all over the world. And what is leadership? What I have learned is actually an answer I'm going to give you, and I'm not giving you that answer, you know, to sound smart or what I heard. Everybody think they know the answer, but the answer is out there. You know, there is no 100% answer. Me, I will answer that way. A good leader is somebody who must have knowledge. Knowledge is something you are not born with. Knowledge is something you need to acquire. You need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was a cleaner when I was 16 years old at the Negresco Hotel. And I remember the bar manager, when I finished my apprentice, he said, why don't you stay with us? And I said, why? I've been cleaning glasses on the beach of the Hotel Beau Rivage for the last 6 months. I don't know anything. And he said, I like you because you don't talk. And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? I don't talk, I don't know anything, and you want me to stay? He said, yes, because you have the right attitude. So I looked at him and I always remember that, Was he a good leader to me? After going to university and school, maybe I could say no, because he had nothing intelligent to say or nothing smart to say. But I realized after that, when I grew up and I went up and up and up and up and, became a GM of the best hotel in the world, which was Cheval Blanc in the Maldives, Louis Vuitton. Why did I become this kind of person? Why did I got the job? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I think the people talk about me. That's the way you get your job. For me, I always got people call me, would you like to do this job? And would you like to do that job? So leadership to me is to have passion. If you don't have passion, you will never be a good leader. And I think it's important to listen to people, to understand them, and give them the tool. I'm the GM. I can release money. I can release equipment. Give them the tool to do their job, and give them the mental support. I think that's a good leader. A good leader is not somebody who push people around or give them responsibilities, because sometimes you give people responsibilities and they fail, and that's terrible. So it's somebody who listens very well, somebody that is on the ground, not in his office. I give you an example. Last week, my chairman is a wonderful lady. I'm in Ningbo now in China, and she called me and she said, Philippe, I really happy to have you work with me. And I said, what happened? What did I do? And said, because I know you've been working 17 days non-stop, 14 hours a day, with your employee on the ground. And I said, yes, I do it because that's what I love to do. I want to be there. My employees are suffering because, the hotel is 100% full. They need support, they need equipment, they need somebody to make them laugh because, they're so tired. So that's leadership.
True.
Not maybe the right smart answer that you want, but it comes from my heart. That's leadership. And I can tell you, my employees, they are behind me. They follow me. They do what I tell them. And, if you want to be a good leader, you need to be able to care. And if people know that you care, they will do anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much. It's actually an amazing definition of leadership. And I totally agree with you that, leadership is being able to, I would say you said, being able to acquire knowledge every time. So it's mainly being a continuous learner, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and then you've mentioned the right importance of having the right attitude, being able to be to listen and care for your team, and the most importantly, I think the passion, because that really drives us and keep us on fire, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, you
Yes.
mentioned like you're very hands-on. I mean, from what you said, I believe that you're a very hands-on leader because you're always on the ground. And I would say I'm really proud to be a hotelier myself as well before. because I think that's what makes hoteliers very different as well in terms of how they work. It's really all about passion.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So having said that, I mean, you've defined for us what leadership is, and I'm sure you agree as well that, we're facing, you've mentioned about COVID-19 earlier. So how would you define and probably describe what would be the next normal is?
But you see, I can share something with you. My career, you'd be surprised to hear that I have worked in the one of the best hospital in the world. I was the director of food and nutrition
Mhm.
for the Mount Elizabeth Hospital based in Singapore.
Yeah.
Lots of people smile when I say that, but it's something I did. I'm very proud of it. I left the five-star industry for 5 years. And after 5 years, I went back to the five-star industry, five-star hotel. But I learned so much working in hospital, and the COVID-19 for me was something that I took full force because of my hospital experience. And I tell you, I don't want to mention the hotel I was working, but because when I talked to my chairman, he completely ignored me. I told him, I saw it coming. I said, be careful, we are going to have a wave of infection coming to us. We need to do a lot of things put in place. And his reaction was, no, Philippe, I don't want to do it because he's going to kill the business. But I said, no, that's completely wrong. We need to be ready. We need to start putting in place system to protect not only our guests, but to protect our employees. And I knew already what to do, because when I had this discussion with him, that was beginning of January, and the COVID-19 was already spreading itself in December. So, but they didn't want to listen to me. Who am I? I'm a GM. What do I know? But 2 weeks later, the virus hit Asia full force, the whole of Asia, and people were running for cover. It was a disaster. The occupancy in the region that I was went from 80% to 10% within 3 weeks. It was a frightening situation. And after that, he came back to me and said, Philippe, what are we going to do? I said, sir, you already missed the boat. We already missed the boat. I mentioned to you what we are supposed to do, and you didn't listen. And that's the pity of the world nowadays. I want to quote somebody, the former CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs says something. I have it plastered above my head in my office. I do not hire people to tell them what to do. I hire them so they can tell me what to do. And that's a fantastic phrase that I remember all the time. A person like me, I was hired by this very nice man, to be his GM in this fantastic hotel. But they don't listen. They just don't listen. He probably didn't even know. He didn't read my CV. I worked 5 years in one of the best hospitals in Asia or even the world that belong to the Parkway Group. I could have done so much for him, but he just didn't bother. And the COVID-19 is not going away. It's still here. There's a lot of reports. I'm in contact with doctors in Paris, which are my friend. People having a lot of after effect of the vaccine that I don't want to discuss that now, but there is new, as you know yourself as well, there is a new variant of the virus that are coming out. It's a very sad, complicated affair, and even the government don't know exactly what to do. They want to reassure people by the vaccination, of course, but they don't know what to do. I think the most important now is the prevention, and I'm not a buyer again, but I can very strongly tell you that authority in China are doing an amazing job to control the virus. They are doing a lot of things that me as a French national, I can tell you is not happening in France. So for that, I really raise my hat to the Chinese authority. They are really doing a great job, but we are not out of the loop, that's for sure. So the new norm, to answer your question, the new norm is to really put in place all the measures that we have learned from the specialists, the cleaning your hand, the sanitation, and do it every day. It's not something, oh, today I do and I don't do tomorrow and I forget about it. Something that has to be discussed every day and has to be checked every day, because not everybody is able to follow all the direction. And China is doing very well because the Chinese people listen to their leaders. In Europe, it's very complicated. The people in Europe and in America, because of the thinking, always want to argue with their leaders, make the situation worse. But in China, people listen to their leaders, and they're doing very well.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Philip. And I mean, I really love the quote that you mentioned by Steve Jobs, right? And I think it's normal. I mean, as a leader, we don't know everything, right? And we have to admit that, and we have to be aware of that. And so we have to leverage on the strengths and the knowledge and the talents of the people around us, right? And
yes.
And that's true. I mean, COVID-19 is here to stay longer. I mean, even though with vaccines, right, like you've mentioned, people still get sick. I mentioned that in one of the videos I posted. I mean, the expert says that it will take probably 4 to 5 more years to probably get COVID-19 out, or probably have crisis still on the way of us leaving the. I don't think previous normal is coming back either, right?
No, absolutely. I think we have to learn to operate, and I'm talking for the hotel industry, to operate a different way, to operate I can tell you, I give you an example, maybe you can understand better. The norm, any 5-star hotel you travel all over the world, you used to see this buffet, all this food. I mean, it was unbelievable. What is the sanitation? And everybody says, "Oh, but don't worry, we know what we do." But it's just waiting to happen. I work on the cruise ship 2 years, and the sanitation, of course, there is sanitation, but the chance that something might happen is always there because people don't follow it 100%. We can do it, but it takes a lot of strength, a lot of discipline, to achieve this standard of health and sanitation. And a lot of things have happened. You've seen it yourself, on the news. A cruise ship is blocked in certain port because there was a case of infection, a virus, and some hotel as well. And then, we go to sleep, we wake up and we go on. Nobody really pay attention. It's a normal thing, no big deal. But I think the COVID-19, I think is going to put everything upside down. I hope so. I really, truly hope so, because I know human being, after maybe a year, people will say, "Oh, now we are okay," and then they will forget everything. That's the sadness of it all. You mentioned some dates, when I'm talking to my doctors, very high expert in France, they all told me they don't think there will be a return to normalcy, not only in 2025 or 2026, which is quite a long way to go still, So I think we have to be extremely careful. That's what we have to do.
Totally agree with you. So what will it take to navigate this crisis? Having said that this is the new normal, and now that our traditional metrics and assumptions have been rendered irrelevant, what or how can we actually navigate this crisis?
But to go through the crisis that we have now, I think the world wants to go back to normalcy, but a lot of the frontier are closed. We cannot travel all over the world like we used to do. Some cases you can take a plane. For me, when I was my last country, I came back to China. I mean, I could have written a book. It was unbelievable. All the tests and the hospital and the quarantine, and it's unbelievable. I don't think we can live with that nowadays. For business, but nothing going to move in the next 1 year, I believe. But if we do start again to travel, it's going to be a long trip. It's not going to be what it used to be, and we are going to have tests, and then there is a test as well. They don't talk too much in the newspaper nowadays, called the nucleic test, because they found out that the virus is actually hidden into your body. So you need to do this test, not only the COVID-19 test, but the nucleic test. So that's a lot of time and waiting and patience. And when you travel, you have to do a lot of declaration. So it's going to be very difficult, definitely this year. What's going to happen in 2022? Nobody knows. I think at the moment we really have to look at the sanitation. It's something we cannot run away from. We have to have with professional people, of course, not people that say, "Oh, I know." People who have all the qualification to help you in your business to take care of the COVID-19. And I think daily discussion. In my hotel, it has happened. We are very strong at it, but I can see sometimes there's some gaps. A staff might enter, and then I can see the security don't take the temperature and then because I walk around. So why don't you take the temperature? This was discussed. There is an SOP. The SOP is on your wall. Oh, but I know him, sir. And I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't matter if you know him or if you don't know him. He might have caught the virus, and then what? It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing. It's very tiring, but as a leader, you cannot let yourself go down. You have to be on your toes 100% of the time. And I think that's the price to pay to be a good leader. We cannot just lose attention even a second.
Thank you. That I would say again is a lot about discipline and being able to follow through, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. And so what are the important leadership capabilities and skills you must have in the next normal, having said that, to be able to, continue to lead effectively?
Yes, we need to live effectively. There's something I believe very strongly as well. I apply it in my hotel now. Is marketing. Let's not forget about the marketing, but the good message. For my hotel, there's a lot of communication to make understand people that we are in a safe environment. And then the authority that are in Zhejiang province, are doing a great job as well. So it takes not only me as a leader of my hotel, but the people that around you, the community, the local government, everybody here take it very seriously, and normally when you check in a guest, it takes 5 to 7 minutes, to check a guest because of the paperwork and, and so forth and so on. But, when we started all the requirements from the police can take up to 15 minutes to check a guest. And I tell you, I was very worried because, I was afraid guests are going to maybe walk out. 15 minutes, I'm in your lobby, I don't want to go in your hotel, they walk out. There was zero complaint. Again, because the Chinese people are people that, listen to the leaders. They knew before they come that there will be a lot of declaration form. You need to go see doctors for tests. And they were very patient. They were sitting in the lobby and waiting for their turn. And I was shocked, I said, oh my God, these people are really, really listening to the leadership. Something I don't think will happen in a hotel lobby in France. So, the business is still going on very well in China. There is no crisis of economic crisis or business. It's still going on well. Again, because of right mentality. I think that's something important.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I believe, I've seen some articles and some news as well about China, like how different it is, like what you've mentioned earlier. I mean, the economy is still doing well despite of the COVID-19, and even like some luxury company are doing well as well in this period of pandemic. So again, like what you've mentioned, if I were to summarize is in three words, is like being able to communicate well your message to your team and to your stakeholders, and at the same time to be able to be disciplined and a good follower at the same time to be a good leader.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. And so what do you believe is the role of leadership and transformation in thriving in the next normal?
In the future, you mean, or in the next year?
Yes, because we've talked about leadership and like the value of being able to transform to be able to thrive in the next normal. So yeah, in the future or even in the near future, what do you think it takes, or what's the role of leadership and transformation to be able to thrive?
Well, I will say the future of the leadership, to me, the way I've seen it, looking back into my career, looking going forward, uh, and the past, the present as well. I'm in the lobby, I'm observing what's happening in the lobby, I'm observing what's happening in my public area. Uh, there's something that tells me the right leader, the employees want the support of the manager. That's what they want. They are doing their job every day. Yes, they have the SOPs, they have the PNPs, they have the operating manual. The list goes long. But at the end of the day, they are human beings doing their job. And they don't expect to have to handle so much stress, because in the hotel industry, I'm talking about that because I know it, this COVID-19, and there might be other things in the future, that will create pandemics. I went through the 1993 as well, influenza when I was in Singapore, that affect the lungs. It was a disaster, and then it happened again now. So people want the manager that are put in charge to lead them, to be there for them. And I think that's very important to me. I think the people under me, my job is to support them. It's not to tell them what to do. It's not to force them into a tunnel of what I learned from my school and what I read from a newspaper. No, because every day is different. Every person is different. And every person has an education and has a personality. Some leaders that I work with me, that I call my ex-com, for example, some of them are doing great job, but some of them are doing a great job, but nobody wants to work with them. And they don't get it. I'm trying to explain to them in an easy phrase. I said, listen, you are your worst enemy. And they look at me, they don't understand this phrase. I said, you are doing a great job. You are passionate. But the way you handle people, or should I say, the way you don't handle people is so blatant in my eyes that the people under you don't respect you. They don't want to work with you because you don't lead them, you drag them. That's what I will say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that's how big the role of leadership is in making sure that, people would or companies would thrive, right? How you actually bring your team together upwards to thrive.
Yes.
Yes. And so that brings me to my last question or final question, which is my Miss Universe question for you.
Yeah. I'm afraid. Go ahead. Shoot.
So if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be?
To ask myself a question.
Yes.
And give
That
you the
can best
answer.
A question that
Okay.
you can best, what will you ask yourself, which you can best answer, and what would it be and why?
Well, the question I ask myself all the time, because my wife is always pressuring me with that every day. How to be a good leader and a good father. And I don't have the answer to this question yet. I would love to have it. As I mentioned to you, I recently I worked 17 days in a row from 8 o'clock in the morning to midnight. I didn't go home. I saw my wife maybe one time with the children. It was fantastic. But my wife is always angry with me. Always angry with me. So I don't think I'm a bad father. I'm doing my best, but men and women, the question of the century, we think differently. That's for sure. I always tell her, I said, come on, I give you everything you want. I pay for the school, I pay for the food, I pay for the apartment, I take care of everything. You should be happy, right? No, she's very angry because I'm not there. So it's always going around and around and around. But I don't have the answer to that question. I would love to have it. But at this moment, this is what I'm struggling with. Even you told me I'm a good leader, and I thank you for it. And my chairman tell me that as well. But I would love to be a good father as well. And I'm still working on it.
Thank you so much. As a person, we are all leaders of ourselves, our family, and our community, or in the business or career that we are in, I would say. So that's really a good question. I always ask myself as well, how can I be a good leader and a good mother as well to my children? And I think we just had a mastermind, if I can share with you that we just have a mastermind in one sessions with Gail and Kavita recently, and this is a powerhouse group of women, leader women around the globe, in fact. And what the question was is, are women actually a better leader than men? Don't get me wrong about that.
No,
So,
but
and they gave example.
I interrupt you. My apologies for interrupting you, but
No worries.
I do it because it's a very important question that you just said. Are ladies better leader than men? When I don't work, which 100% of my time is I work, but when I don't work, I like to read sometimes. I read by myself in the dark, and I remember this phrase, by Nelson Mandela. He said, and I apologize, my apologies if I don't say it properly. He was such a great man, but he said something like that. He said, educate a man and you educate a country. Educate a woman and you educate the world.
Exactly.
And is a beautiful phrase from Nelson Mandela. And I believe it. I'm a person, I would love to see more women in position of power, because I think ladies have a lot more sensitivity to people emotion and people feeling and to all the sickness of the world. I think that the ladies are a lot more sensitive than the men. You know, men want to fight war. I mean, there is cases that you have women have led war, like Elizabeth II, you know, in England, very, very famous queen. But after that, it's always men, you know, they're fighting for power, they're fighting for women, they're fighting for borders, they're fighting for resources. You don't see women fighting for all these kind of things. They fight for their children, they fight for good causes like healthcare. So I would love to see women in more leadership role for in the year to come. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. And just to continue, our take is that of course it depends on your experience and your, you know, your profile as well. I mean, like I've mentioned earlier, you're really a great leader yourself because of your experience and the values that you have. So that one you can't really, like, you know, generalize. But I think for most cases, like women are always able, like what you've said, be more emotional or empathetic, so that that also gives them an opportunity to be able to care more and to listen more,
Yes.
and get, I mean, they really get to look into creating solutions, rather than, you know, feeding their ego. So I think that's what makes women leaders most of the time. It's not true for all, but I mean, that's what we have probably some of us or most of us agreed on. So yeah, but
Yes.
and so yeah, it's good to have like more leaders to step up, and I guess that's the reason why a lot of countries who are doing well in this COVID-19 are actually headed by women. But of course, again, like
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, right, we are all leaders of ourselves, of our family, of our community, so it has to start with us, to be able to create that change in this
Absolutely.
world, right? So really, thank you so much. Is there anything more that you'd like to add, or share with our audience today?
No, I think I'm really happy to have participate in this forum, and I hope I have answered your question. I have done it with all my honesty. I'm not trying to be the right answers. You know, it's what I believe, and I will keep on doing what I do. And thank you very much, and please stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Philip, for sharing us, for generously sharing us your experience, your stories, and your take on leadership and transformation. And we really appreciate that. And like what my business mentors would say, that, you know, to be happy in life, you have to ensure balance and to be able to integrate your career and your personal life as well. So I think that's what I can at least share with you to be a good father. It's all
Yes.
about making time for your family, I would say. Yeah. So I really thank you for taking time. I know you've worked so hard for the last days or weeks, I would say, because of the Chinese New Year, and yet, you know, you gave me time to have this amazing conversation today. And this is actually, in fact, we were hoping that you can join us in our upcoming summit, but because you are not available, that's why we just did this pre-summit conversation. So again, the purpose of this conversation as well is not only to add value, but to share with them more amazing lineup and programs that we have upcoming next week on the 22 to the 26th of February, which is transforming and thriving together event, to be able to lead with accountability, adaptability, and agility in the next normal. I mean, we need this information, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
That gives us awareness and realization. So I really appreciate your time, Philippe, and thank you so much for